Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Windsor Time podcast, something new we are trying out. I am your host, Noah, a contributing photographer to Windsor Time. I shoot some of the social images, and then obviously Noah Williams Style, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And to my right here, or left for you guys, right here, Mr. Benjamin Simon.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
What is your title at Windsor?
I am Vice President of Windsor Jewelers and I guess founder of Windsor Time, kind of the same entity, but yeah, we're really excited about this venture and trying to do a little something new to get outside the confines of brick and mortar, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll kind of talk about it a little bit up front here. This is going to be a medium format podcast, so I think we're kind of going for that 15 to 30 minute range and just talking about watches, hanging out and having a good time. One of Ben's friends has been kind enough to lend us his beautiful loft, which we're going to take advantage of as much as we can. So thank you, Suhail. But
Casa Suhail.
Yeah. So every other week is what we're aiming for on these. Sometimes it can be more, sometimes it can be less. We're just kind of have fun with it and see where it goes.
So seeing as this is the Windsor Time podcast, and you'll get to know us over the episodes here, but I think we should probably, at least for this episode, talk a little bit about how we personally got into watch collecting and or just this industry and this hobby in general. So start with you, Noah. How'd you find your way into this black hole of a hobby?
I don't know. I regret all of it. Sometimes I do. No, I through Instagram. I mean, I think like a lot of other people. So I had started my menswear blog, influencer thing, whatever you want to call it. Basically realized I could get free stuff and had started reaching out to companies. And the second company I pitched was Daniel Wellington.
Very cool.
I think it's easy to figure out how I feel about them now. But at the time, it got me into watches. They had a lot of strap options, which was cool. So I was wearing a NATO strap for the first time.
And Daniel Wellington had a big moment there for a while. I mean, they're still popular, but they were very popular there in terms of a fashion watch.
Still popular, but
they're trying to give.
It was a thing,
happy,
So I got that
negative
watch, and fake rose gold, white dial, just 2-hander. I don't even know. It was definitely a quartz movement. Probably a $5 movement off of Alibaba or something, but got that and really just kind of piqued an interest. There was like an American Eagle watch that I wore for a little bit before that, but got into that, and then just through internships and stuff, found my way into menswear in the watch industry, and was doing PR we did some Breitling events, Piaget, all that kind of stuff. So while still wearing my Daniel Wellington, which was funny, but got into Seiko, and then, just kept going up and up from there.
Seiko definitely is the tool that brings a lot of people into this industry.
Yeah, I mean, the SKX. I can't remember if it was the 009 or the 007, whatever it was. It was the Pepsi looking one as well. Yes, but
big one.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But what about you?
So I mean, no surprise that I'm in my family business with Windsor Jewelers at this point, but I didn't originally set out to sort of go on that venture. I would say, I grew up around our store in Winston-Salem, and when we only had one entity, and
is that the downtown store?
So it wasn't. So technically, I grew up around that, but it was like a distant memory, if you will. But
sure.
My father started the company in 1986, downtown Winston-Salem. For a quick history. I believe at 4th and Cherry, so the corner of Cherry Street in downtown Winston, when Winston-Salem was having kind of an uptown revival in the mid 80s, which then, strangely enough, in the 90s into early 2000s, it kind of drifted away, and now uptown Winston, used to be.
I don't know why we call it uptown
Charlotte. We used to call it uptown. Winston-Salem, downtown, had a nice revival in the last 2 decades, I would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, I grew up, I know my father would have me cleaning the bases of his old school wooden showcases and things like that, cleaning bathrooms, that type of thing. But, when I was in school, if I was, during the winter, I'd be a little gift wrapper, a little helper, but was never super involved. However, about the time I graduated college, graduated high school, I got my first major watch, which at the time to me I probably took for granted, but it was an Omega Seamaster 300M. Literally the classic, physical wave dial, Pierce Brosnan, GoldenEye.
What was
300M
the
in
Bond
blue.
at that time? What movie had just come out?
When I got it,
so.
I need to remember, but I mean, it was the specific reference from
Pierce Brosnan.
GoldenEye.
Nice.
But at the time I graduated, it might have been one of his second or third, not quite as good films, but still fun. But I wore that watch all through college. I wore that watch for the first probably year or two post-college, and I think I really took it for granted because it's just one of the ultimate watches. But I was doing everything in that watch. I mean, everything you can imagine around the world. Traveled a lot. Did not necessarily think I was going to come into this world, but I ended up, sounds very first worldly, but I ended up working at the 2008 Beijing Olympics via Omega, via a connection with Omega, just as kind of an intern. And next thing I know, I was returning from China, moved to New York City, ended up working for Omega at retail in New York City. Yeah. And then one thing led to another, went from Omega to Breitling. Breitling ended up, back in my family business here in North Carolina when we had an opportunity to open our store in 2013 in Charlotte. But watch collecting itself along the way sort of picked up steam. I was kind of worked for Omega, drank the Omega Kool-Aid, switched to Breitling.
As you do with any brand.
Yeah. I mean, you get so into it, and drank the Breitling Kool-Aid for a long time, and I still have a deep, deep love for Breitling. But I was really, really enamored with that brand, and had a wonderful time in Switzerland with Breitling, a lot of cool training. But loop back around, and now it's just been kind of an endless hobby since. I mean, now coming into multi-brand retail and working with all these different brands, different lore and history behind these brands, it's just been amazing, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of different avenues. But
absolutely. So and I think I didn't even really realize, so 2013 was when the Charlotte store for Windsor opened.
February, for Windsor Jewelers, February 8th, I believe it was, 2013 was our.
And then how long after that? Because I believe I moved back here in 2016 to Charlotte. I think late 2016, early 2017, we kind of linked up. At that point, I think you already had pre-owned, I believe.
Yep. So we've always been a major watch entity in the Southeast, but we really only dabbled and previously enjoyed watches for pre-owned watches for so long. And, really it's been these last 4 or 5 years that it's really picked up steam. I mean, as we all know, but I would say Windsor Time itself, which is what we're working on here, came about around 2018, I would say, nice. More or less. And it just as an idea of a way to brand our previously owned watches in a sense. It's really not a different entity, but we can have some fun with it and, see how it grows. Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and jump into what you're wearing today.
Yeah, man. So I am wearing today the beautiful Patek Philippe 5940R, which is a cushion shaped perpetual calendar within their Grand Complications world, and something that was discontinued, I want to say around 2017 or 2018. Some retailers, may still have been out there on the market for a little while, but just a really cool, complicated, under the radar watch. Still falls into the dress world, but I think it can wear pretty casually. Yeah, and just a fun shape that you just don't see as much within the current collection. But I've really had fun with it, and especially, just a few weeks ago, we had our rolled into a new year, and it was fun to watch it all change over.
Yeah, absolutely. But really quickly on that watch, it is interesting, throughout Patek Philippe's catalog, I think there is a certain cohesion, and that watch really falls into an interesting spot because it's not a circular, super complicated dress watch, but it's also not in that Aquanaut Nautilus kind of range. So it does have the cool kind of case shape, which you could see, this is the company that also makes the Aquanaut, right? For sure. But it's such a beautiful watch.
Yeah, so. And I have the feeling they'll bring this kind of, it's not quite a tonneau. I mean, it's truly a cushion, but I have the feeling we'll see some more down the road. This shape is never going away, but it's definitely something I feel like there's a little void right now. And I also think, not that this is not a sales pitch, but I do think this watch is something that's a little, just overlooked right now in the world of hyped up sports watches.
Well, and especially, you're seeing, I think I saw 5712 the other day listed for like $150. And in the world of that, if you can get a precious metal Patek
with a grand complication.
Yeah, for like not that. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely.
But so I'm wearing, I wanted to call it the Patek of Japan, but that would technically be Creedor. So I'm wearing one step down from that, my new Grand Seiko SBGA 413.
Sounds
the
correct.
Spring.
If anyone can memorize, and of course there are people that are like, of course I can memorize. If anyone can memorize all the Grand Seiko reference numbers and roll them off, I mean, it's...
Well, and so this is my second Grand Seiko. I had, and again, I've forgotten the reference number because once it's gone, I remember it, but it was the gray 9F quartz on a gray canvas. Really cool watch. Again, at the time I had it memorized, but once it's gone, it's like, what's the point? But yeah, very cool watch. Came on bracelet. I put it on this really kind of cool taupe strap, which is
brown and gray.
Fun. Yeah, it's
beautiful.
It's been cool.
I love that watch on the bracelet too, but I mean, seeing it, that differentiates it a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and I was surprised in previous watches that didn't have micro adjusts. I've just never been able to find a good fit. But with the Grand Seiko, I was happy because it has the half links. Mm-hmm. So even though it's a little bit looser than I would absolutely love if I could just, nitpick it, it is still very comfortable on the bracelet. And I would think probably this summer, I'll go back on that. It is interesting. We're coming here to kind of on a new year, right? And, resolution wise, what are you... Personal collection, what's happening in 2023? Like, what are is resolutions for watches a thing?
I'm like a resolution-free person in the first place. I try to be kind of like, my personal mantra year to year. I don't want it to be based on a hard stop. Like, all right, now I'm going to do this. If I'm going to get up and run, I'm going to do it just to do it, not to run like a 5K or something. But with watches, I would definitely say probably consolidation. Yeah. Like really focusing in on, are these, is this volume of watches making me happy, or do I want to, wear one watch for a longer period of time and, really live with it, as opposed to, I think certain people just keep building and building their collections just to build them, as opposed to really living with something through a whole season perhaps. And then, so for me, it's probably not, doesn't mean I'm just out buying stuff randomly, but I would say really focusing in and maybe consolidating a few things and focusing on, honestly, things like grand comps or something a little bit more, I don't know, out there.
Well, and I think that's a theme I've noticed. Obviously, I haven't been collecting as long as you, but over the last 5 to 6 years, you go through periods of just buy. And then you go, I'm actually wearing this stuff. And then you kind of consolidate up. I remember whenever I was lucky enough to get the No Date sub, I wore that watch like every day for 3 months. Yeah. And then I went, I would rather have this one, whatever they are now, $9,000, $10,000 great watch that I can wear every day, right? As opposed to, a couple of Omegas and a couple of other things that also add up to that cost. Yeah. So, it's interesting. Awesome. We've been talking about watches quite a bit. So let's dive in. We have a couple of shop picks here. I am really excited about what I brought today. This one hasn't been in inventory that long, but this is the IWC Big Pilot. It's big. I don't know the reference because IWC references are like this long. But really just such a cool watch. You've got your central seconds, your date at 6 o'clock, and obviously your power reserve, and then the big crown, which I think is kind of, outside of the size, the main feature. Yeah.
Iconic. One of the classic IWCs out there.
Yeah. When it comes to sizing, it is really interesting because there's a lot of 43 millimeter watches I wouldn't wear, right? Yeah. But with this at 46 millimeters, it really isn't that bad. It's very wearable. I think the original IWCs were like 60 millimeters and like literally would strap to your thigh. So this is already smaller than that.
Yeah. IWC they would not like me to say this probably, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think the 46, even though they've come out with the Big Pilot 43, I think the 46 still wears better on most wrists. And it kind of goes both ways. I literally oftentimes find, if you're looking at vintage Rolex, for example, I think a 34 or 35 millimeter wears better sometimes than a 37 or 38 or 39 on some people's wrists. Yeah. Even if it looks smaller, it just actually makes more sense. And I feel it's the same way on the opposite side of the spectrum with this,
The Big Pilot is 46 millimeters. I mean, I'm sorry. I know they make the 43 millimeter. I actually thought I wanted it at one point.
Yeah. But and it's an awesome watch.
Well,
but you pick up the extended power reserve here. You got all the main...
This, when you go down to 43 millimeters, it just is kind of bland. And like, there's just something about the size, the text, everything just works and fills it up really nicely. Whereas I didn't feel like the 43 really had that. But yeah, I mean, 7-day power reserve is nuts and really cool. So
dude, it's an amazing watch, and it's really one of the, I think, as big as it is, it fits almost any wrist. To just drill that home, we have sometimes I don't say the smallest guys, but guys that would be afraid to wear something that's a 40 or 41 millimeter watch, rock this watch, and there's just something about it that it's just so, it just works.
It is, and I mean, it's like a Panerai. A Panerai is a big watch, right? A big Pilot is supposed to be a big watch.
Absolutely.
So I think it's great. So what have you brought in today?
So I brought in, also from the shop, this is a Rolex GMT Master, not a GMT Master 2, but GMT Master from 1984, I believe was the production year on the serial. It's a 16750 with, red and blue GMT, but what everyone would call, of course, a Pepsi GMT. It has a beautiful patina to it, and just an awesome watch. It's kind of one of those pieces that... I feel like, you don't want to say everyone should have in their collection because everyone's collection is different. But if you're going to buy a 80s Rolex and you love to travel, that's one that's kind of hard to beat.
Well, and this one is great because you do have the creamier and really just beautifully patinaed handset and lume markers, but it's not damaged. So I think you saw this whole thing of... tropical dial watches and all that, which is great, but a lot of times that can just be water damage, right?
Tropical's a nice way of putting that it may have some rust in there. Now, there are some true tropicals that are stunning.
Sure.
But this is not one of those tropical.
No, absolutely. This is really, really beautiful piece.
Killer piece. Really sharp edges, too. I mean, it hasn't really been refinished, and very light service history, which can cut both ways, but really original handset, essentially not serviced, which, up to the buyer if they would want to service it or not. But some people love the fact that it hasn't really been touched. So just really a great piece, and just a fun piece.
It is. Awesome.
So,
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this first episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like I said at the top, we're aiming for every couple of weeks here. If it's popular, maybe do more, maybe do less. We'll see. But anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
No, had fun with it and looking forward to a lot of fun episodes in the future.
Awesome. Cool deal. Well, this will be on Instagram, YouTube. We'll have links to it everywhere where you guys can find it. But be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you.